So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me. It's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 12 by 12 Picture Book Podcast. Today is a very exciting day because this is the first guest that we've hosted on the podcast. Welcome to Adria Goetz, who is a literary agent at KT Literary, who has been taking submissions from 12 by 12 Gold members, I think for 7-ish years, maybe even a little longer. I know we're both like, let's not talk about how many years have gone by. And she's definitely one of our favorites. And so, Adria, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being the guinea pig of the first guest on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I think when I did my webinar all those years ago, I think I had purple hair at the time, maybe.
Yes. Not only that, but I was reviewing the transcript before of that webinar before I came today, and you also wrote notes about what you were looking for in like a lavender pen. Do you
Oh,
remember that?
yeah, that sounds like me. I don't have any notes this time around, but yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah. So if you're listening to the podcast, at some point you might want to go and check out this episode on our YouTube channel as well, because Adria has the most amazing wallpaper and always has like such a full and fun aesthetic. And I think it fits who you are as a person and who you are as an agent. And so it's always so fun to talk to you. So thank you for being here. Now, you are with KT Literary,
Mhm.
but before that, you were with Martin Literary Management. So can you just give like a little Cliff Notes version on how you came to be an agent and where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I got my start in the publishing industry through an internship with Martin Literary, which was a literary agency that was local to where I was in the Seattle area. And I, at the time, wasn't really sure which path I wanted to go down in publishing. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an editor or what. And so I just kind of applied for any publishing adjacent internship I could find and got the internship with the literary agency. And like the first day of the internship, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. It was like I showed up and there was like an auction going on that two of the agents were navigating in the office. And it was just very exciting. And I loved seeing the relationship that the agents had with their clients and the calls they had with them. So I was sold at that point. And I stayed on as an intern for a couple years, and then I became an assistant at the agency. And then I went and did the Columbia Publishing course, which is a publishing kind of summer intensive program, and came back from that and started agenting at Martin Literary and was there for many years. And now I'm at KT Literary, where our motto is nice people, great books, which I just love. And yeah, I'm also the agency's illustration coordinator. So I like look for illustration opportunities for our artist clients, which is
Wow,
fun.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's got to be so fun.
Yes.
And right
Yes.
up your alley, right up
Yes.
your visual
Yeah.
aesthetic alley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and by the way, for those listeners who may be somewhat new to the picture book industry and agents, it's very common for agents to start working at one literary agent and end up moving to a different one. It's just part of like kind of the same way that people move from one job to another job as you're going up in your career. So, but the mentorship that you get at an agency is really critical. So you are one of our early featured agents for 12 by 12. You'll be taking submissions from gold members, and I'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But I want to start with the question that I'm sure everyone has on their mind right now at the beginning of a new year, which is, how do you view today's picture book market? And what within that, what do you think editors slash publishers are going to be looking for? And if you think there will be any kind of trends? I know it's really hard to predict trends, but what do you think? Give us your crystal ball on 2026 in terms of picture book publishing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to work backwards a little bit and talk about trends first, and then I'll talk about kind of the broader market. So I think that trends wise, editors are looking for characters and plots, which is, I know, a weird thing to say, but we definitely have had a slew of picture books in the last decade that are more conceptual in nature and don't necessarily have like a plot or, named characters. And so I think we're seeing those slowly kind of have less interest among editors. So plot and characters are in. I'm hearing that grandparents are out. So all you Mimas and Peepaws are just very last season, according to editors.
Aw.
I know. And I'm obviously being facetious, but also like that is what I'm hearing. I think though that it's mostly that we're just, for grandparent stories in particular, I think we're mostly seeing kind of the same types of stories in that vein. So we're seeing like a grandparent, teaching their grandchild how to make a family recipe or a cultural recipe. We're seeing a lot of picture books about grandparents with navigating dementia and how a child deals with that. A lot of like grief picture books, or illness, grandparents with an illness. And so I think that when editors say we don't want grandparent stories, they're really just saying that we want to see something fresh. I would say that's also true for food stories. I hear a lot of editors saying that they don't want food stories, and I think it's just because they've seen the same plot over and over again. But then there are also picture books like The Cafe at the Edge of the Woods and The Bakery Dragon. And those are like runaway bestseller successes that both have food prominently featured in them. And I hear all the time editors saying that they want the next Bakery Dragon, they want the next Cafe at the Edge of the Woods. So when you hear editors or agents say that they don't want this type of story, I think it's worth kind of spending some time and thought digging into maybe why they're saying that and then kind of strategize from there. Because it was never about food. It's never about grandparents. It's about stories that feel fresh versus old, or too familiar. And then on the note of Cafe at the Edge of the Woods and the Bakery Dragon, I'd say there's a lot of interest in fantasy picture books where we have a fantasy world in a picture book context. We have magic, anything that kind of feels escapist, and in some ways like grand, like there's world building involved. I think there's a lot of interest. I'm also seeing a lot of interest in books that have a science angle to them, which I feel like I've been like that's just been trending for the last decade. But of the picture books I sold this year, four of them had like a heavy science angle to them. So there's still a lot of interest in kind of the STEM space. Another thing, I'm just gonna keep yapping, Julie.
Yeah, please. I'm like lapping up every word here, so please keep going.
Another thing I'm seeing editors pay close attention to is a picture book's marketing entry points. And I was talking to an editor recently, and she was telling me that every picture book she acquires needs to have three marketing entry points in order for her to buy it. So to illustrate what I'm talking about there, I love to use the example of The Ocean Calls by Tina Cho, because I think there's like a dozen marketing entry points you could probably pluck out of that one. So it's a book about Haenyeo, which is a Korean word for these older women who free dive off the coast of Jeju Island and they harvest all this sea life, like abalone and clams and fish, all these things. And it's about a young girl who's learning this trade from her grandma, which again, it's a grandparent story, but it's like no other grandparent story you've seen. It's very unique and specific. Um, and so I think this book has so many marketing angles. It does have the grandparent marketing angle. I think there's a big like girl power or strong women marketing entry point. I think there's an environmental entry point in there. So that's like three entry points right there. And that's really just kind of scratching the surface of the story.
And
But
culture, I would say
yeah, culture.
very
Yeah.
unique
Yeah.
culture and science too.
Yes,
Speaking of
absolutely.
science, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that book, by the way.
Oh, good. And so that gives a publisher's marketing and publicity team and their sales force a lot of jumping off points to pitch and place that book for those sales reps that know certain bookstores are looking for, certain and, selling points. And then the last thing I'll say for this question, because I could yap forever about this, is just the idea that publishers are looking for highly commercial books with incredibly wide appeal. And this sometimes manifests in them doing IP books that feature characters that kids are already familiar with and interested in. It also manifests in publishers wanting to continue to work with authors that have books that have performed really well for them in the past, expanding a series that is popular. There's a big movement away from the quiet books. In favor of embracing the big, splashy, loud commercial books that a lot of kids are going to love and a lot of parents and grandparents are going to reach for. And the books that, the big box retail stores are going to see value in. Because in the United States, the top three booksellers, do you know this, Julie? Do you know the top three booksellers?
Uh, can I guess?
Yes.
Okay. We're just you're talking about physical stores, not like
Um,
Amazon.
no, just like companies that sell books.
Okay, so would Amazon qualify
Yes.
then? Okay, so I would guess Amazon
Yes.
and I would guess Target and maybe Walmart? I
Yeah.
don't
So
know.
no,
Like,
that's those are really good guesses. You're very close. So Amazon is number one. Costco is
oh,
number two.
really? I thought they pulled back on their books.
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay, okay. I
And then
love myself a Costco, so,
oh, of course. Yeah, of course. And then Target is number three. So
okay.
you were right on the money there. And so yeah, so whenever I like talk to people about that, they're like, how is that possible? Because Costco and Target, like everybody understands that Amazon is number one. But the Costco and Target is so shocking because when you're in those stores and you're looking at the book section, it's such a narrow selection. And it's really a small part of the store. But they sell so many books, they move so many units because they pretty much only stock bestsellers and books with proven sales numbers. Like just best, I mean, I I know it's like so dumb to say, but bestsellers sell best and they sell just a mind-boggling number of books. So these places are putting their chips on known winners. And, Amazon is stocks everyone, so they're kind of a different story. But certainly their algorithm is favoring and pushing that same selection of bestsellers. But when your top three accounts are so narrowly focused on a small certain sliver of titles, it can't help but kind of drive what it is that you acquire and what you publish. And so I'm just saying all of this to say that there's definitely a push right now, especially like in a post-COVID world where we're seeing what Book Talk can do for sales. There's definitely a push for big books that publishers think can compete for one of those very limited number of slots
Hmm.
that places like Target and Costco have for their books.
I like big books and I cannot lie. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Okay, I mean, that makes sense because we have to remember that publishing is a business
Yeah.
and they want to make money and the economy is tough right now and we don't know from day to day what might happen with tariffs and all of that affects the cost of
Yeah.
books to the consumer and all of that makes a lot of sense. If you are writing a book, though, that doesn't fit into that space that you just described so eloquently, what advice would you give to make those stand out enough? Because while we can say we want plot driven, character driven books and we want commercial books and so on, but we as in you and I right now, we know that there are always books every year that get acquired and get published that fall outside of that parameter.
Mhm.
It's like the perennial, you know, we don't want rhyme, but then people are like, but so many rhyming books get published in a year, you know? So what if for your clients, if you had clients who were writing outside of that, what advice would you give them to make their work stand out in a tough market?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the marketing entry points approach. And I feel like a lot of the books that I've sold this year that aren't necessarily, you know, fitting into certain trends or commercial blockbusters, they do have a lot of like marketing angles going for them. And part of that, just to toot my own horn, maybe, is like a little bit of me highlighting those in my pitches and just being like, look at all the different ways you can market this book. I mean, that's an agent's job. But yeah, I think that that's also like in the back of my mind when I'm talking to clients about their projects and like which books should we shop next. I'm looking for those books that have all those entry points that a publisher can use to promote a book.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So, moving on a bit. So, I think mostly right now you're closed to submissions, although you do open here and there. And you take submissions from 12 by 12 members as part of, it's sort of like at a conference, you'll take submissions from
Mhm.
conference attendees, but you've been taking submissions from 12 by gold members of 12 by 12 now for quite a few years. And in my own self-serving way, I would love to know what it is about 12 by 12 and submissions from 12 by 12 that has kept you coming back year over year to take submissions from the group.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just a sense of gratitude because I feel like after I did my webinar with 12 by 12, I feel like that like established me as like a legitimate picture book agent, and just like helped get my name out there. But I think that 12 by 12 does such a great job bringing people up to speed with the craft of picture book writing, how the publishing industry works, and just provides that foundational level of knowledge that's very helpful for a client to have. Because there's always, of course, like a certain level of education and explaining things to clients and walking them through the process the agents have to do. But the more that a client knows going into the working relationship, like the easier my job is. So, yeah, I mean, I just know that to expect a certain level of polish from 12 by 12 submissions compared to other submissions in my inbox. And whenever I meet someone like out in the wild, like an Uber driver who asks me what I do for a living, and they're like, "Oh, I want to write children's books." I'm always like, "Okay, like you should look into 12 by 12." You should look into SCBWI. And I just think that it's just a great place for me to like direct people because I know that it's like actually pointing people in the right direction toward a place that's gonna teach them what they need to know.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. And likewise, we have I love the fact that we have a back and forth education because we do have webinars with agents, and that is always so instructive for our members. And I feel like we cannot hear enough about how to present ourselves to agents and to editors and publishers so that we do the best by our work, you know?
Mhm.
Because nobody is in this business to get rich. We're in it for the love of literature and the love of children's literature in particular. So we want to give our books the very best chance of finding their ultimate audience. And obviously, for you, I'm so grateful for you taking submissions, and from there, anybody who you sign as a client, ultimately, moving them from that point forward into having a published book. It's such a beautiful thing. It's very exciting. So, one thing that's unique about you, or maybe it's not unique about you, but is, you talk about it differently from other agents, because a lot of times when agents talk about submissions, it's sort of like, uh, oh, all the work. Not that it's totally negative, but just like, I get so many submissions and I don't have time, to read them, and there's a lot of angst and stress around submissions. But you on that webinar in 2020, by the way, we were headed into the pandemic and we didn't know it. And so because we had that webinar in January of 2020, and right? So that was
That's
like the
wild.
last.
Oh, we were so innocent.
I know. And I, I, I asked a lot of questions like I always do in the agent webinars about what do you think the market is going to be like this
Yeah,
year?
I probably did not age well. Oh
Exactly.
gosh.
Oh, so fresh-faced and
Yeah,
bushy-tailed were we.
yeah.
But one of the things that you said was that you love getting submissions and you look forward to reading queries. And I've never come across an agent that seems so genuinely delighted by queries as you. And so I'm curious why that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly like I want people to query me. Like I want to have a lot of options to choose from. And so like it's partly strategic to just be like a warm, welcoming place for people to send their gems to. But I also think I don't know, I just wish everyone could experience what it's like to have a slush pile, what it's like to have people who are it's a collection of these stories that are tailored to your interest. Like for example, I love mermaids. I always have, I always will. I love mermaid folk tales. I love mermaid mythology. And I've had this like on my manuscript wish list like since day one. It was probably like the first thing I put on my manuscript wish list. And so because people know that, people send me mermaid stories. And so it's just like and that's just like one example, but like everything in there is like people are tailoring it to my tastes and setting projects that they think I'm gonna love. And so it just has never really felt like sorting through slush and garbage to me. There for sure are some questionable things in there. That's true for every pile, but I just feel like it mostly feels like kind of combing through a treasure trove and just like looking for the sparkliest gem. And it does get overwhelming sometimes. Like it does, the volume does get overwhelming. I have found a new system that I think works for me, which is just being open for the first day of the month. That feels more manageable to me and kind of like puts this bound, it kind of controls the chaos a little bit. And so yeah, but I just wish everyone could experience it because it is delightful.
Oh, that's so great. I've never heard it described that way, but yeah, it's like you're getting a curated
Yeah.
list of curated stories that nobody else has probably ever seen or very few people have, maybe critique
Yeah.
partners and whatever. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I'm wondering if maybe because you are only opening one day a month, it helps. But I'm wondering if you've started to see AI submissions, those that
Oh
are
boy.
very obviously either the query or the manuscript or both are very obviously written by AI.
Yes, it's yes. And that just is a very easy like pass for me. I like can see AI art from a million miles away. I think many of us can. Yeah, it definitely makes its way into my slush pile for sure.
Mm, it's such a bummer that
It's a bummer.
all that wasted time and
Yeah, it's a bummer, especially sometimes people will say in their query, I used AI to generate these sample illustrations, but obviously, like, it's just kind of to be a visual aid, and like a publisher can hire their own illustrator. And so I feel bad for those types of people because it's like agents aren't gonna review your submission with that much nuance. We're just gonna see AI and quickly pass. So let that be a word of warning to anyone who has thought, about potentially doing that. Even if it is just to like be a visual aid, it's not a good idea.
right, right. Wow. That's something because I would just never even think of doing that, but I guess I can see how if you didn't know enough about the industry that would be something you think would be helpful even though it is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity to talk up some of your favorite picture books right now, whether it's picture books you've represented or ones that you just love, and if you have any that are coming up in 2026 that you want us to keep an eye out for.
Yeah. Okay. So for 2026, there's one called The Princess and the Grain of Rice by Tina Cho. And it's like a Korean retelling of The Princess and the Pea. Except instead of a pea, it's a little grain of rice. And it's really darling and the art is beautiful. And so I'm really excited about that one. And then as far as like some other recent titles, client titles that I'm really proud of, Millie Fleur's Poison Garden by Christy Mandin um, is a big one. We pitched it as if Wednesday Addams had a garden. So that one I really love. And then Christy also has one that I think it's really, really special book. It's called Bittersweet. And it's a historical nonfiction picture book about Gail Halverson, who was a pilot during kind of post World War II during the Berlin airlift. He was bringing in supplies, and he saw this like field of kids one day and kind of had an interaction with one of them, and it kind of sparked this like diplomacy kindness mission of him like as he was flying over he would send down these parachute parcels of candy and chocolate.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really beautiful book. I think it's a great resource right now for parents and teachers who are trying to navigate difficult conversations with kids about all of the violence and war going on in the world right now. And the art's amazing. So I'm really proud of that one. And then there's also one, this is such a dangerous question, I'm sorry,
I
but
know. It's like I get it. I know it's hard because on the one hand, you want to celebrate books, and on the other hand, we don't have time to be here until tomorrow morning for you to mention all of your clients' books.
Okay, last one. Last one is called In the Groves by Andrea Cruz, Floren, and it's about a girl whose grandpa works in these orange groves in California. That's all I'll say.
And it's a grandparent story.
It is, yes. Yeah,
You
yeah, it
see how
is.
we're circling back here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, Tina Cho is just such an amazing human.
Mhm.
She was a member of 12 by 12 for a long time, and she's also, I had never met her, and then last year got the chance to meet her twice. Once was at the Wild West conference in
Mhm.
the Wild Midwest in May, which is where I ran into you
Yeah.
briefly. Like, that was sort of how it was with Tina, and then I saw her at NCTE.
Oh,
Just a
recently.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it was very quick. But she's always just been so lovely and supportive, and she's such a great writer. And so I'm looking forward to her next book too. Is there anything else that you would like listeners to know about you, or where they can find more information? I know you have a website, and we will include that in the show notes along with KT Literary's websites. And is there anything else that
Um, I would just say, yeah, if you go to my website, adriagoetz.com, you can also sign up for a free newsletter that I have that talks
Yes, and it's
about,
good. I subscribe to it.
and there's no schedule. I'm not sending things every Thursday. I send things as I think of them, just talking about publishing and writing and books I love and various thoughts. But I try to only send it out like a couple times a month.
Yes, it's very fun, and I would add that I would follow you on Goodreads because I do. I follow you on Goodreads because I'm I take a lot of your recommendations for cozy mysteries and romance because
Mhm.
those are two genres that I like when they're good,
Mhm.
but they can very quickly fall into just overwrought and cheesy for me
Yeah.
personally. And I found you to be a very good source. So
I mean, I
if
would
you give
say,
something a and I know that your tastes are because of some of the books that you love. I know our tastes are a little bit different, but on the other hand, I've gotten some really great recommendations
yeah.
from your
I would
Goodreads
say
reviews.
I read so many books. So I would say if you're looking for book recommendations, find me on Instagram because that's where I'll like post the
Okay.
good ones. On Goodreads, I just like I read very broadly. And not all of them are recommendations.
Right. That's a good, thank you for that added tip because now I'll know to go look on Instagram instead. And you also have a Pinterest board
Mhm.
of books that you like and that you've
Yeah.
represented. Also, for our lucky listeners, I'm going to give you 20% off of Adria's fabulous webinar that we did 5 years ago. And it was, that is a bit of time, but I did go through the transcript. And aside from the what's trending right now conversation, it's all still really relevant. And we went into a lot more detail about the nitty gritty of submissions, and what to do, what not to do, and all of that. So if you're interested in learning more from Adria and seeing the lavender writing from the lavender pen, then which I highly recommend, just go to the link that's right down here, and we will also include that link in the show notes. In addition to the discount on Adria's webinar, remember that we are in the middle of 12 by 12 registration right now. And the window is very short. We're only open through February 15th. So we really want you to join us if you haven't already. The link is 12 by 12 challenge. That's 12x12challenge.com/membership. Learn all about it. That's also where you can join us. So we hope to see you in the challenge. And thank you again, Adria.
Yeah.
Do it together so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12.
12 manuscripts.
12 by 12.
12 picture books.
12 by 12.